Here's an interesting idea for you. I'm doing a character that's just doing aura damage. So I've got Inquisitor and Nightblade, and on the Inquisitor side there's the main skill, Aura of Censure. The thing about these auras, it creates an area around you, small radius area around you. If an enemy comes in within that radius, they take damage. You don't have to attack them, they take attack damage from this aura of, well, from this it's fire and burning that's around me. Inquisitor Seal, this has got a rebuke thing on it with the 3.8 meter radius, deals fire damage. If you stand inside the seal, things coming up take damage. If you put it down near them, they'll take damage from it. That thing goes off on crits and just buffs all damage. Nightblade, fairly straightforward. Veil of Shadow itself doesn't deal damage, but Night's Chill does. It works the same way as the aura. The range is on that. It's got a 5 meter radius. Cold damage and frostburn. So you're doing fire and cold damage and damage over time. I put a point in Amarastas because Lethal Assault, if you read that, Lethal Assault affects all attacks while active. So it buffs cold damage and frostburn damage. The percentage increases. The flat damage it's dealing there is just to weapon attack. Don't worry about that. So that's just a buff. So I'm not really doing much. I'm using that. I'm using this. I've not got any attacks on there. There's no attack skills on there. Devotions at the moment, what I've done, these things buff elemental damage. I've got that thing. I've put it on Inquisitor Seal. You could put it on Amarastas. I've not got that many options of where I can put that. I could put it on charge. It's like the Dreeg default movement skill. That thing goes off when I'm hit and deals elemental damage. So the way you play this is you just walk around and occasionally put the seal down, but you don't need to. So you can stand there. It's not retaliation damage, and you can see they're taking damage before they get anywhere near me. So unlike retaliation damage, you don't have to be hit by a melee attack. You just have to be near the things that are enemies and they'll just die. And there's Inquisitor Seal down there. Amarastas. So with bosses, anything that's not just going to melt, I just hit them with Amarastas to turn Lethal Assault on, because it's got a 100% chance of activating. If you hit something, you get Lethal Assault. There it is. So that comes up, and this is a laugh because I keep trying to find different ways to play. I know this isn't an original thought. I mean, people have been doing this kind of build for a while, just aura stuff, but I've never really done one. I tried to do the Aura Apostate, but it turned more into a ranged build. It wasn't quite as good as this, as just dealing aura damage. And this is in normal. I'm level 40 whatever I am. I'm just currently just trying to get these things maxed out before I worry too much about anything else. And the gear, you've got quite a few options with gear while you're leveling. There's some great stuff later on, level 50 plus, but while I'm leveling, that thing, Molten Claw Slicer, I'll nip across and show you where to get that in a minute. That thing, you've got a choice of shields. You've got Wradlith's Bulwark. You can farm that off Barris Wradlith, single boss farm, easy to do. That adds flat damage to Veil of Shadow and minus 10% cold damage resistance reduction to Veil of Shadow. That's pretty good. The other one, the Scarab Carapace, same shield I used on the Bullet Hell Mage Hunter, but for different reasons on here. This buffs Aura of Censure and it puts elemental damage on Aura of Censure, and it increases attack speed, which isn't really that important. But what I tend to do was have a look at Aura of Censure, see what type of damage. It's 1487, and then have a look at Veil of Shadow, which is doing 1260. So they're kind of similar. If you swap those around, that thing goes up, but Aura of Censure drops off quite a lot. So try and keep them roughly the same. Right, let's go. I just came in here to get a shrine. I'm using a merit on this character. Obviously, I'm messing about with it. It's not. I'm not leveling it normally. I'm going around grabbing all the shrines in normal and doing a few things, farming a few bits of gear. But yeah, that I went and joined Dreeg after killing not Cronley, Krieg, because it's because it's a nice movement skill. It helps get you around the map. As soon as you see a bunch of enemies, you can just rush in there, drop Inquisitor Seal. It's kind of what I do. Run in, drop Inquisitor Seal, stand in it, wait. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get some health regen stuff from the devotions to make it a bit easier to just stand there. Because you're obviously not, there's no damage converted to health because you're not hitting anything with weapon damage. There's a boss here somewhere. I can take him out. There we go. Right. Forgot to swap my Amarastas back over. See, my health's not great. Health regen would be good on this. So what I'm doing on devotions is, yeah, it is a health thing where I can put that on, whatever. Put it on Veil of Shadow. That thing's on Aura of Censure. Doesn't really matter. As long as they're on permanent toggle skills, it doesn't matter which ones they're on. Right, so I've got all the ones in here. I'll show you where that Molten Slicer comes from. If you go to, on the one-shot build, I was going to Infernal Waste, farming Sister Crimson up in the Tomb of Sithan, but there is a massive concentration of these dinosaur things here, these raptor things, these boys here. These drop that Molten Claw Slicer. Well, if you're lucky. There you go, there's one. Oh, it's a Searing of Alacrity. Don't know whether that's better than the one I've got. Let's have a quick look. Yeah, so what this does, if you have a look at that, that obviously puts fire damage on Veil of Shadow and minus 10% fire resistance. That's brilliant. That's a really good thing to have. I mean, arguably with a Nightblade, I could equip 2 of them. But I do like the shield, and because I'm standing there getting hit, it makes more sense to have a shield than to have 2 weapons. So what you do is you just have a look at, yeah, Amarasta's dropped off a bit. I mean, you just glance at that. What you're really interested in there is how much it's buffing fire and burn damage. The flat damage doesn't matter. Those percentages are pretty close. It's just if you get one drop, you could get maybe a, I don't know, a searing one of some other fire damage thing. Or get a green one that's added, like something that procs on attack. Because the attacks do trigger that sort of thing. If you've got an item that fires off a thing when you attack. There you go, that's pretty good. Like, look at my health. See, I really do need, I need some kind of health regen on that. Save popping a potion. You don't really need to be popping potions. But I'll sort that out. And whether this would be continually viable through Elite and Ultimate, it would probably become a bit tedious. I don't know. I was just going to do it in normal and just mess about. See if I can do stuff like kill Loghorian quickly without hitting him just by standing there, that sort of thing. So you Knight's Chill, Aura of Censure, Inquisitor Seal, that's pretty much it. And then I'll probably get Word of Renewal, mainly because of the, where is it? One of these things buffs elemental damage, doesn't it? Yeah, that thing. So that'll probably be for a heal skill. And also Nightblade, I'll get Pneumatic Burst up because it's got that there. Elemental damage goes up there. So that works the same way as Word of Pain pretty much. You got a heal that does more than just heal, and that thing buffs elemental damage. You've got a heal that does more than just heal, and that buffs elemental damage. So I'll have Elemental Seal, Movement Skill, and 2 heals that do more than just heal. And that's got Fallen Skies on it. That's not. I thought that might have had. If you've got Fallen Skies on a different type of item, like not a weapon, I think it puts the thing where cold damage falls out of the sky on them. But that's just What's that actually doing? Oh, it's got cold damage and lightning. That'll work actually. That'll watch. This will put that up. This will put Amarastas up. Yeah, a little bit. It's got the fire damage, the burn damage, but it buffs cold and lightning as well, which is nice. Buffs crit damage. That's actually all right. So if you get a Seer of Fallen Skies, that's pretty much what you want. That thing, resistant, yeah. Oh yeah, but if you look at the, I don't know whether it's the durable or off the boar that's putting that 22% physical resistance on that. Molten Slicers, as I was saying, go to the Infernal Waste Drift, which is there, and just run around in a circle. If you want Wradlith's thing, nip over here. Wradlith's in this cave over here. So your rift's over there, it's straight across pretty much. Here he is.
Skill's not ready.
There you go. So he's dropped. Yeah, it doesn't drop with physical resistance on it, does it? So that, let's have a quick comparison of these. So the one that's just dropped, yeah, you'd always get cold damage, you'd always get physical converted to cold. Looks like you always get the skill cooldown reduction and you get a plus whatever to Night's Chill. And then that flat damage and the resistance reduction to Veil of Shadow. But that one I got with the 22% physical resistance, that's actually pretty good. But yeah, if you want to have a laugh, I mean, it's very easy to set up. The gear's easy to get early on, and you've got other stuff. There's something like Rune Armour of Ignafar, chest armour, that deals damage. There's Horns of Eket Zul. That's a boss you can target farm. It's a helmet that does fire damage in an aura. And you got this thing, Shard of Astrakhan. If you look at the Chilling Presence granted skill on that, it deals damage, cold damage and frostburn, so it works. And it's got that cold resistance reduction and lightning resistance reduction. Works a little bit like Night's Chill. So that would be alright. Whether that's going to be better than a Molten Claw Slicer with decent affixes though. It's a toggle skill though, so you've got something else you can toggle on and attach devotions to. I don't know. I'd have to try them out. Depends whether you want to go mainly cold or mainly fire. I'm just mixing it up. Call it elemental damage, not really doing an awful lot of lightning. So that's that thing. That's what I'm messing about with at the moment, although not with any kind of particularly long-term plan. You could just equip a whole load of rubbish gear. Oh yeah, Glacier, sorry. If you look at that, channel Chilling Energy. This ability must be toggled, and what happens is it says enemies that strike you occasionally trigger a surge of ice. It looks like that hits things, doesn't it? I'm reasonably sure it does. I hope I haven't just wasted my relic slot, but don't worry about it. The core skills on both sides work really well together because it's all elemental damage. You haven't got to do any damage conversion. Here you go. It's a bit of a scientific demonstration of how the items add damage into Veil of Shadow. Does the same with Aura of Censure, but it's harder to prove because Aura of Censure deals damage. So what I've done here, temporarily taken all the points out of Night's Chill. So Veil of Shadow, as it is, does not deal damage. And you can see that if I turn it on. Now these dummies have got this debuff on. That's dagger thing over their head. What that's showing is that's nerfing them. It's taking their offensive ability down. So that's what that's showing. Now if you have a look at this, that weapon adds fire damage to Veil of Shadow. Now unlike other toggle skills where something will add damage to it, for example Possession, Possession doesn't deal damage, but if it's got flat damage on it, what it means is while possession is toggled on, your weapon damage gets increased. Soleil's Witchfire is the same sort of thing. Anyway, if I put this in that slot, they're now taking damage from Veil of Shadow. I'm not having to actually attack them. So although the wording is kind of the same, it just says fire damage to Veil of Shadow. Veil of Shadow has that fire damage on it now. It's not adding weapon damage on while Veil of Shadow is up. If I take that off, it stops happening. It's the same with, not with that shield, it's the same with Wradlith's thing here. Cold damage to Veil of Shadow. They're now taking cold damage. You can see that happening. That is because that shield is adding cold damage into Veil of Shadow. But you can't see it on that screen. Where you can see it is on here. Right, Veil of Shadow in its default state doesn't do any damage. Now it's doing 422 fire. Now it's doing 897 cold. Now it's doing a whole load of cold and a whole load of fire. And both those things, that thing is buffing fire and cold damage, so it is buffing the fire and cold damage that those items are adding into Veil of Shadow. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know in the comments if you think that's a complete waste of time or if it's the sort of thing you'd have a laugh doing, and I'll catch you all in the next video.